Hello everyone. Welcome to the course Introduction to the Philosophy of the Human Person. My name is Sir Orly, and I am your instructor for this class. In this lesson, we will talk about the definition of philosophy and its divisions. This lesson will serve as your introductory topic. The topics will be presented in a very general way and it will not attempt to discuss everything in depth. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to 1. Explain the etymological and traditional definitions of philosophy. 2. Compare and contrast the material and formal objects of philosophy. 3. Distinguish between speculative and practical philosophy. Let us begin with the definition of philosophy. As most instructors of philosophy would start. The word philosophy is derived from two Greek words, philos, which means lover of, or friend of, and sophia, meaning wisdom. In this context, love is an urge or a drive of will towards a particular object. As a drive, love always seeks unity with its object and desires to possess its object. On the other hand, wisdom means the application of knowledge. So a philosopher is a lover of wisdom. But wisdom is not necessarily the same as knowledge. As such, those who know a lot of things are not necessarily philosophers or wise, though they are certainly knowledgeable about things. Wisdom does not also just mean correct application of knowledge, as others would say. If that is so, then everyone is a philosopher in the true sense of the word. A shoe repairman can correctly apply his knowledge on repairing shoes. A machine operator can properly operate a machine in a manufacturing company. A pickpocket can correctly apply his knowledge about his craft. These are all possible because they are knowledgeable in what they do. However, these cases do not imply that they possess wisdom. It is also true that we cannot have wisdom without knowledge. Truth is the ultimate object of knowledge. Philosophy is absolutely committed to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Hence, truth is being shown and practiced by a man of wisdom. Now, if philosophy means love of wisdom, to philosophize, therefore, is to be in quest, or to have a desire towards loving and living the truth. Babor, 2007. Wisdom is a kind of science. And so it too is a knowledge of things through causes. But more precisely, wisdom is a knowledge of the highest causes. It is the intellectual virtue by which a person judges in light of the highest or first causes. That is why we sometimes find wisdom in older people. For they have had the years of experience to see the larger picture, so to speak. They have encountered many kinds of people throughout their lives. They have been deceived before, lied to, have been pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised by things they weren't aware of. They've made mistakes. Older people have had time to reflect upon their mistakes and the mistakes of their friends, associates, and family. And they have come to learn how to distinguish the genuine friend from the false friend. Older people know something about what marriage really is, as opposed to what they thought it was, when they first married. They understand what love really is and what it is not. They understand that they knew very little when they thought they knew a lot. And so they know something about human limitations, which they didn't quite appreciate when they were younger. Such people are wise as a result of experience, honest reflection, and the ability to reason. Accordingly, one has no need of a microscope in order to be wise. But one cannot do biology, for example, without a microscope. And so philosophy, which is the love of wisdom, does not require technology. McManaman, 2007. Socrates is an exemplary philosopher. His wisdom comes not from knowing a lot of things. The truth is, he once confessed that the more he knows, the more he does not know. In effect, Socrates was saying, he knows that he does not know. As a philosopher, the wisdom of Socrates consists of acknowledging the limits of his knowledge, and the limits of the things he knows for certain. When someone possesses this kind of realization, then we say, he possesses wisdom. Traditionally, philosophy is defined as the science of beings in their ultimate reasons, causes, and principles acquired by the aid of human reason alone. Biddle, 1984. But I would like to break down the terms involved in this definition. Let us talk about why philosophy is a science. Why philosophy is a science of beings. Why philosophy is a science of ultimate causes, reasons and principles. And why philosophy uses human reason alone as its tool. The word science comes from the Latin verb scire, which means to know. Thus, science is about possessing a certain kind of knowledge. Some people say that science is about knowing facts. Science is much more than that. For everyone knows certain basic facts, such as leaves are green, that people get cancer. But that doesn't make them scientists. Thus, a person has science when he knows the reason for the fact, such as why leaves are green, or the cause of the fact, such as what is the cause of cancer. Science is about reason facts. In other words, one has science when he knows the reason for or the cause of the fact. That is why science is fundamentally a knowledge of things through their proper causes and reasons. Philosophy is a science, but its being a science is totally different from other sciences. Other sciences, like mathematics, chemistry and physics, have fixed answers. In philosophy, answers are left loose, or are deemed open-ended. It leaves the questioner the answer to his question. Thus, in philosophy what is important is the question, not the answer, since answers can become questions themselves. Philosophy considers correct questions as more important than correct answers, because the latter are just the consequence of the former. This gives room for creativity and avoidance of intellectual paralysis or bankruptcy of thinking. Babor, 2007. Philosophy is a science of beings. It is the science of all things which can be reached by the human mind. This includes man, the world, God, everything that is, or becomes, or is known. Thus, as one philosopher has put it, philosophy's center is everywhere, and its circumference nowhere. Ponti, 1964. Philosophy searches for the ultimate reasons, causes and principles of beings. This means that philosophy studies the ultimate whys and wherefores of beings. To illustrate, philosophy does not investigate plant life, or the physiology of an insect. Rather, philosophy would seek an answer to the question, what does it mean to be a living thing as opposed to a non-living thing? The philosopher is not concerned with the nervous system of a rabbit or the DNA of a frog. Rather, philosophy would like to know what it means to be an animal, or what it means to be a species as opposed to an individual of a species. Philosophical knowledge is the knowledge of things through their first causes. For instance, the cause of the blue in your eyes is a secondary cause, for you cannot have blue eyes unless you first have an eye which is alive, and you cannot have a living eye unless you as a whole are alive. The first cause is that which accounts for your being alive. The secondary cause accounts for the blue in your eyes or the brown in your hair, etc. McManaman, 2007. Philosophy uses the power or natural light of reason. Philosophy is the knowledge acquired by the aid of human reason alone. This means that philosophy does not base its knowledge on authority, but solely on the reasoning power of the human mind. Divine revelation is therefore formally excluded, as a source of information, although it can, and should assist the mind of man, by pointing out the proper direction for the philosophic solution of a problem, along purely natural line. Every science does two things. First, it treats a certain subject matter. Second, it treats its subject matter in a certain way and with special definite aim. Glenn, 1957. Thus, there are two objects to the study of any field of science: material object and formal object. The material object of a science is also known as the subject matter. For instance, in cosmology, the material object encompasses the whole universe, from the largest galaxies to the minimal subatomic particle. The formal object of a science is the special thing for which the science seeks in that field. That is to say, the special aim and in view, point of focus, that the science has in dealing with the subject matter. Glenn, 1957. For instance, in cosmology, the special point of focus, for which it seeks in the study of the universe, is its origin, evolution, structure, and by extension, humanity's place in it. In the case of philosophy, the material object is all beings. The formal object in which philosophy deals with all things is the first causes and the highest principles of beings. The formal object through which those principles are known is the natural reason alone, and specifically, the abstractive power of reason. The differences and similarities among philosophy, particular sciences, and theology are due mainly to these salient points. Particular sciences study beings in its more immediate causes, reasons, and principles using the natural light of reason. Philosophy studies beings in its ultimate causes, reasons, and principles using the natural light of reason. And theology studies beings in its ultimate causes, reasons, and principles using reason enlightened by divine revelation, that is, the supernatural light of faith. Practical philosophy is composed of philosophical fields which study not only to obtain knowledge and wisdom, but to use that knowledge and wisdom for practical purposes. Ardales, 1998. It is a philosophy that also perfects the will by principles to be practiced. It presents related data from which the directive laws or norms are immediately derived. Its function is primarily directive. Its goal is not just finding the truth but acting on it, applying the knowledge gained for the benefit of mankind. Ardales, 1987. For instance, the Ten Commandments are not merely to be memorized and known. They must be understood and lived. Artigas, 1984. Practical philosophy includes logic, ethics, axology, aesthetics, and semantics. The name logic comes from the Greek word logiki, meaning thought. Thus, logic studies the laws of thought. It is the science and art of correct thinking. This covers the study of simple apprehension in ideas, judgment and proposition, reasoning and arguments. Logic attempts to resolve the following questions. What makes good arguments good, and bad arguments bad? How can one tell whether an argument is justified, believable, or convincing? The name ethics is derived from the Greek word ethos, meaning character. Thus, ethics deals with development of a virtuous and moral character. It is the science of the morality of human acts as ordained to the final end. This covers human acts and principles of human actions, acts of man, ultimate end of man, determinants of morality, law, and conscience. Ethics attempts to resolve the following questions. What makes my action right or wrong, and how could I know it? How should I determine whether I am acting rightly or wrongly? How should I live my life? How should I treat other human beings and how should I be treated in return? Is there a norm good and evil? The name Axology is derived from the Greek word axios, meaning worth, as well as logos, meaning science. Thus, it is the science of value. It is the study of the origin, nature, functions, types, and interrelations of values. This covers the study of all forms of value, including aesthetic values, ethical values, and epistemic values. Axology attempts to resolve the following questions. How are values experienced? What are the kinds of value? In what sense can values be said to exist? Is value in the quality of an object or an act, or is it in the mind? The name aesthetics is derived from the Greek aesthetikos, meaning of sense perception. It is the science of beauty and art. Beauty means the quality attributed to whatever pleases the beholder, such as form, color, and behavior. Art refers to man's creativeness and skill in making or doing things that have form and beauty. It is the branch of philosophy that deals with the nature of art, beauty and taste, with the creation and appreciation of beauty. This covers the concept of creativity, expression, representation, form, and style. Aesthetics attempts to resolve the following questions. What are the essential characteristics of beauty? Is beauty in the eye of the beholder or in the object? What is aesthetic value? Do the arts provide knowledge? Is there a special kind of aesthetic experience or aesthetic perception? What makes something beautiful? Sublime, disgusting, fun, cute, silly, entertaining, pretentious, discordant, harmonious, boring, humorous, or tragic. The name semantics is derived from the Greek verb smeno, meaning to mean or to signify. Thus, it is the science of meaning. It is the philosophical and scientific study of meaning in natural and artificial languages. This includes the study of the relations of words to the objects denoted by them, the relations of words to the interpreters of them, and in symbolic logic, the formal relations of signs to one another or what we call syntax. Semantics attempts to resolve the following questions. What sort of meanings do human grammars yield? And by what rules are these meanings assembled? How do the meanings of expressions relate to acts of using expressions and to various aspects of cognition, especially those deployed immediately in communication? How does grammatical knowledge develop in children? Speculative philosophy is made up of philosophical fields whose main concern is the acquisition of knowledge, without any thought of applying it for any practical use. Ardales, 1998. It is a philosophy that enriches the mind by principles to be speculated upon or to be known. It does not directly imply laws or norms for the guidance of thought. Its function is primarily cultural. It directs itself to knowing things as they are without thinking of the application. Ardales, 1987. For example, the Sun is 93 million miles away. Light travels at the rate of 186,000 miles per second. Earth has only one moon. Arrigis, 1984. Speculative philosophy includes epistemology, theodicy, cosmology, philosophical psychology, and metaphysics. The name epistemology comes from the two Greek words episteme, meaning knowledge, and logos, meaning science. Thus, epistemology is the science of knowledge. It is the science of true and certain knowledge. This includes the statement and solution to the critical problem, nature, origin, objectivity, and validity of knowledge, truth and certitude. Epistemology attempts to resolve the following questions. What is knowledge? What is fact? What is truth? How do we know something is true or false? Is there objective truth, or are all opinion relative? The name Theodicy is derived from the Greek words theos, meaning God, and logos, meaning science. Thus, Theodicy is the science of God. It is the science of nature, existence, essence, Attributes and operations of God. This covers the demonstrability and actual demonstration of the existence of God, His essence and attributes, and His immanent operations, intellection and volition, and His transient operations, creation, conservation, concurrence, governance, and providence. Theodicy attempts to resolve the following questions. Does God exist? Why God allows evil? What are the arguments or proofs of His existence? Is there really God? Is God just? If He is, why does the morally upright person suffer, while evil men prosper? The name cosmology is derived from the Greek words kosmos, meaning universe, as well as logos, meaning science. Thus, cosmology is the science of the universe. It is the branch of philosophy which deals with the origin and development of the universe with its parts, elements, laws, especially its characteristics with regard to space, time, causality and freedom. This includes the essential principles of natural bodies, matter and form, change, motion, time, place, space, causality and finality, generation and corruption. Cosmology attempts to resolve the following questions. How did the world begin and where will it end? Is the world eternal, that is to say, has it no beginning and no end? The name psychology is derived from the Greek word psyche, meaning soul, as well as logos, meaning science. Thus, psychology is the science of soul. Psychology studies the nature of the mind, the self, and consciousness. It is the study that deals with man not only as sensing or thinking subject but also as being composed of body and soul. This covers the concept of life and its operations, the soul, the sensation and appetition, the intellection and volition. Psychology attempts to resolve the following questions. Is there really a soul? If a man has a soul, is it immortal? What argument is there to show that man has, or does not have a soul? What is the nature of the human person? Is there such a thing as human nature? What is the meaning and purpose, if any, of life? Is there life after death? How do we explain the human sufferings that exist in the world? The name metaphysics is derived from the Greek words meta, meaning after, as well as physikon, meaning nature. It is the science which deals with the nature of being, its attributes, constituent principles, and causes. This includes the concept of being, its analogy and fundamental attributes, problem of evil, act and potency, essence and existence, substance and accidents, supposite and person, and causality. Metaphysics attempts to resolve the following questions. What is being? Why is there being rather than non-being? What is existence? What is essence? Why do things exist rather than not exist at all? What is the meaning and nature of reality? What is the underlying principle of all that exists? Is there nothing? That's it for today. I really hope you learned something from this lesson. Thank you for listening and watching.